And good evening, Santa Cruz County and beyond. Welcome to Voices from the Village. My name is Sandino Gomez, and I'll be your host tonight as we dive into a topic near and dear to my heart, and I'm sure many other thousands and thousands of people's hearts here in Santa Cruz County. We're going to work with a couple different people from the Santa Cruz Tenant Organizing Committee as well as the Santa Cruz Tenants Association to talk a little bit about kind of rent control as a larger topic, but also about a lot of the kind of struggles of people here in Santa Cruz County to organize themselves to kind of confront some of the, quite frankly, outrageous conditions that tenants find themselves in, the prices people are paying, the conditions people are living in. It's a huge problem. It's not just here limited to Santa Cruz County. I mean, I think the state of California is facing affordability crises in a lot of different places, but Santa Cruz is not immune to that, with the university driving up the cost of housing, as well as the Silicon Valley right over the hill driving up the cost of housing. We have a lot of people here locally who are kind of caught in the middle of a lot of really powerful large market forces, making it a bit difficult to afford to live around here. So I'm excited tonight to talk with a couple folks who are interested in doing something about it. So to my right, we have Cynthia Berger with the Santa Cruz Tenants Association, correct?
Hi, that's correct.
Yeah, cool. Welcome, Cynthia.
Thanks, Sandino. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And to her right, we have Julia Bjorgi.
Bjorgi, it's all good.
Get it right. Bjorgi. Also you're from Tenants Organizing Committee or Tenants Association?
I'm with the Tenants Organizing Committee.
Okay, so we got two. SETOC or SETA.
Right.
And to Julia's right, we have Zav Hirschfield.
Hi,
Welcome, Zav.
Thank you. Thanks for having us on the show.
Absolutely. Also from the Tenant Organizing Committee,
Yes,
correct?
that's correct.
Yeah. Cool. So why don't we just, I don't know who'd like to start, but who'd like to launch into this thing? Maybe just tell us a little bit about yourself, your own kind of situation here in Santa Cruz, how you got drawn to this kind of work, and maybe we could just go down the line. Ladies first.
Okay. Well, I've been a tenant for all of my adult life. I've never been a homeowner, and I'm 60, and I'm not really planning on being a homeowner. And I enjoy being a tenant. I don't see anything wrong with being a tenant. And but I have seen a lot of, the downside of being a tenant in this kind of rental market. So I wanted to organize tenants so that they could have more of a voice in the political arena, but also to educate people, because a lot of people don't know their basic rights. So I have a tenant hotline, it's free, and I help a lot of people every week.
Wow.
And that's me. I grew up here, I'm from here, been here 55 years.
Right on. Cool, thank you. Julia?
I've been living in Santa Cruz for 2 years now. I've moved 5 times in Santa Cruz, and I've lived in houses, apartments, duplexes, you name it. I've sublet, I've been on leases. And I hate to say that there's only been one house I've lived in that's everything has actually been up to code, the current place where I'm living at right now. I've worked 3 jobs. I currently work 12-hour shifts. Every point in time that I've lived in Santa Cruz, 50% of my income has gone towards my rent. And I personally I don't want to live like this. I'm not getting ahead. I want to get a degree. I want to have a family one day. I cannot save when I'm forced into this situation in Santa Cruz. So that's why I'm part of the Santa Cruz Tenants Organizing Committee.
Sure. Right on. Cool. Zav?
Well, I've been here for a little over 6 years now. I came to Santa Cruz as a student at the UC, and I'm sticking around for a little while longer. I just got my substitute teaching permit, and I'm trying to become a teacher. And I'm involved in the Santa Cruz Tenants Organizing Committee because I think it's unconscionable that people are forced to work and struggle so hard to be able to maintain a place to live. Hear a lot of stories from people about pretty egregious conditions that they have to live in. I visited some friends today that, you name it. People are living in mold-infested houses. People have rats coming in. We helped a renter out who unfortunately couldn't be on the show with us today. She's helping a friend out who has a medical issue, but we helped her with a rat problem that she had. And the thing that's tying all of these issues together of people living in uninhabitable conditions is that they're paying outrageous sums of money for those places. And I just think that's wrong. I don't think people should be forced to struggle so much to just keep a roof over their heads. So that's why I'm here.
Awesome. You both kind of touched on it a little bit in your introductions, but would you mind just telling us a little bit more about the Santa Cruz Tenants Association, and then after the Santa Cruz Tenants Organizing Committee, just a little bit more about your organizations, kind of what you do? I mean, like I said, you touched on this a little bit, but expound a little bit for our viewers.
Well, Santa Cruz Tenants Association, what I do is I have a website, and a lot of times people are looking, Googling how to get tenants' rights in Santa Cruz, and they'll find my website usually at the top of the list when they do that. And there I have a hotline number. It's 831-222-0359, and I'll repeat it later. And I help maybe, at least 10 people a week call me usually, and I just do it as a volunteer. Right now I'm just about to have surgery and I'm on unemployment, so I can take more time right now. Other times I'm working and I can take less time. And I'll go to their house, I'll help them write a letter, I'll just talk to them over the phone. Sometimes they really just need someone to listen to them. But the real reason I'm doing this is because I want to, in addition to educating tenants, I want to organize tenants. And so that's where we overlap.
Cool. Would you two like to tell us about the Tenant Organizing Committee?
Yeah, I can talk a bit about it. So the Santa Cruz Tenants Organizing Committee is a collaboration between folks that work primarily up on the UC campus and folks that live and work primarily in town, off the hill. There are people who work on the campus, for example, like Professor Steve McKay and Professor Miriam Greenberg, who just did a survey of folks living in Lower Ocean to determine kind of the conditions renters are living in there. And some of the information that they've brought out has pushed them to continue to be involved in finding things out about what it's like to be a renter in the county and in the city and the county. And to push for some political will to change some of these conditions. There are union members involved who are interested in this in renting here because they are, well, they live in the community. They are people in Santa Cruz, and even people living with good union jobs aren't able to afford the kinds of prices that people are forced to pay here. So what we do really is there is some overlap with Cynthia's work, although Cynthia has been working considerably longer than this group, and we're really thankful to be working with her because she's got a lot of experience advising tenants on their rights. And some of what we do is doing the advocacy and advising, and we also have a phone number. But the main thing that we're focused on doing is we would like to talk to tenants in their homes or neighborhoods. We'd like to get them to come together in their buildings, on their block, just in their house, if there's a bunch of people living together in one house, and work together to assert the rights that they have as renters. And we want to educate, we want to organize, and we want to get people moving, because renters have legally enshrined rights that many people don't know about, and we want to make sure that they're able to exercise them.
Sure. So, I mean, it's quite impressive, honestly, that it sort of sounds like an all-volunteer org. I mean, really, project, even not necessarily even organization. It doesn't sound like it's like a whole 501c3 or a nonprofit just yet. This really is kind of like an organizing effort of people to organize people. I'm just curious, kind of what plans are, what you might have planned in terms of like moving forward with these political kind of alliances you've created with the populations you're working with. How do you envision organizing tenants either on a city or like county level? Do you have any particular goals or demands for the short or long term you'd like to speak about?
Do you mind if I say something?
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, like I said, we would like tenants to associate with one another in their communities, like I said, on their block, in their home, in their building. We would like people to come together to form renters associations or renters unions, whatever you want to call them. They're basically the same thing, because we know that it's very difficult for people to assert their rights alone. I was actually just out block walking in their neighborhood in Lower Ocean tonight, and I was walking with someone who's a renter. We were knocking on doors together, and this person kept saying to me over and over again, when you're a renter here, sometimes you don't say what you feel like you should say or want to say to your landlord because you're concerned that you might get kicked out. You're concerned that they're going to increase your rent. You're concerned that they're going to maybe make it somehow more difficult for you to live in the home that you're paying for. And so when people come together in groups and they're able to say to their landlord together, look, we know we have this right. We know that the law allows us to have this thing and demands that you provide this thing for all the money that we're paying. It's a lot easier to get those things done and be protected by your fellow renters. And it's nice to meet your neighbors too. It's nice to develop relationships with people you live around. It's nice to be able to share experiences that you have in common. So yeah, we would love to see people coming together to form groups like that, and we're actually interested in helping people do it. There's really good ways to do it that have been tried in cities around the state and around the country. And so if anyone is interested in something like that, please get in touch with us because we'll help.
Yeah, this is really the basis for anything for tenants, is to have tenants organized and working together. You can have a number of small groups, but for my idea is to have a tenants association where representatives from different neighborhoods can come to sort of a neighborhood tenant, a citywide or countywide tenant council even eventually. So we have kind of a 2-year timeline that we've made for ourselves to work on this organizing. I had several people call me this year they are probably considered upper middle class. One is a physician, the other one is a therapist, and they have had they used to be homeowners, and they lost their houses within the last 8 years, and are renters, and they're experiencing what it means to be treated by a bullying property manager or landlord. That can happen. They're experiencing the fact that they really don't have very many rights, that most of the legal rights are on the side of landlords because they've been able to lobby and are more politically powerful and are able to affect laws to their advantage. So that's been interesting to see that, it's not just low-income tenants that need help and to learn their rights. It's highly educated, low-income people are also highly educated. I'm kind of low-income and pretty well educated, but we have like people who really are making a lot of money, but they're still tenants and they're still having problems because they're paying a lot of their income and they expect to be treated well, but they're finding they're not. Some of them aren't. So yeah, I just spoke to a woman. She's like 57. She's a physician, and she's having to pay her neighbor's gas illegally, and having to deal with the landlord being nasty about it because the neighbor's a niece, and things like that come up all the time.
Sure.
If I could interject something on that. So some of these issues that Cynthia and I are both talking about that we've had individual people talk to us about, these aren't isolated cases where only one person is having this problem. And so what Cynthia was mentioning about people in different neighborhoods having their own tenant groups and then associating throughout the county, people who are having these individual issues can then talk to each other in different neighborhoods and say, you have a problem with water intrusion in your home and mold, so do I. What do we want to do politically to make that change so that we don't have to deal with this kind of thing. And that's why we would like to have people from different neighborhoods work together in that way that Cynthia was describing.
Not only do they learn, oh, maybe there's a third tenant who had to deal with that same problem and had a success dealing with it, so they might learn a successful way to deal with the problem, but they also understand that there can be you want to make a voting block. You want to have a feeling that tenants can have some power. Tenants are approximately 60% of the people in Santa Cruz, and right now there's a short-term vacation rental committee that was started by the city of Santa Cruz, and people, it does the short-term vacation rentals in places that were formerly rented to long-term renters. We feel that that's severely impacting renters, and unfortunately, with this committee. We know that for sure that there were 3 tenants who applied who were qualified, but only 2 out of 11 are tenants in a 60% city, 60% tenant city, and I don't think that's right. So.
Yeah, I know the county's been working on that very issue about vacation rentals, Airbnbs located in certain neighborhoods. I mean, essentially functioning as bed and breakfast or hotel operations, but these are private residences in people's neighborhoods that would otherwise probably go to long-term tenants and rentals. But of course, the kind of whole rental market's been a bit disrupted, much like the transportation market, by things like Uber or Lyft. Things like Airbnb are certainly transforming how our neighborhoods are impacted by these kinds of forces. I mean, for the better and the worse. Sounds like. And I think you're right, the city did just do a recent kind of moratorium or a committee to explore it a bit more. I mean, did they do a moratorium recently, or was that just
well, some kind of moratorium, but it wasn't a very meaningful moratorium, whatever it was. But
sure.
There is also there is a person on that committee who's not a tenant but has done some really great research, and in addition to the registered Airbnb, there's around 250, say. There's about the same amount that are illegal, and he found them through replicable research that, through actual websites where you can see them.
I think the website is Inside Airbnb, that aggregates information from the Airbnb website and then is able to determine exactly how many, or as close to exactly as possible, how many vacation rentals from Airbnb there actually are in a particular area. And so there's about 291 transient occupancy tax paying, I think it's 291 transient occupancy tax paying short-term vacation rental properties in the city, and about the same number that are unregistered as well.
Wow. Sure.
One thing that we want to look at during the next election in 2018 is rent control. Mountain View just passed Measure V, which was a huge feat. It basically made any house built and occupied before February 1995 to be under a rent control, where the landlord cannot increase rent for more than the CPI. And if the CPI falls higher than 5%, no more than 5% of the year, once a year. It also put in a bunch of eviction protection notices. So basically, the only way that someone can get evicted now in Mountain View is if a relative of the landlord needs the space or they broke the lease. So in Santa Cruz, there's a lot of arguments against and for rent control. One argument that I tend to hear a lot, even coming from tenants, is that not a lot of homes will be affected. If you look at what the Census Bureau has about Santa Cruz, 85.6% of renter-occupied homes, these are renter-occupied homes, were built before the new millennium. Whereas 68.2%, that's almost 70%, were built before the 80s. I mean, even if we had it like houses built before 85, it would affect so many houses, so many people would have eviction protections and also would not have to pay these soaring rates. In fact, the median rent increase of this last year alone was 6.2%. It's insane. It's also, scheduled to increase another 6% this year alone. We are next to Seattle, which is 7% increase last year. We are the second highest increase in rent in the nation. So, I mean, personally, it just keeps getting worse.
Sure.
We need rent control. We need to pass policy. That's one thing in the future. Right now we're focusing on, organizing tenants and helping people as they come to us, because that's what's important right now, and we need to get that done. But in the future, we need something in place.
I'm just curious, you're saying certain percentages of increases and this and that, but what does that mean? What are you hearing people paying for studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, homes? I'm just curious kind of what you're hearing from tenants about what they're paying for what they're getting.
I personally pay $600 to share a room.
I pay $350 to split an attic with 2 other people. And I talked to someone today. I mentioned I was out block walking earlier. Someone told me they're paying $1,300 for a studio.
Yeah.
So 1 room, bathroom, kitchenette, right?
Yeah.
That might be cheap.
Yeah.
Well, I illegally subleased a studio. I was subleasing it to watch this guy's cat as well and stuff. I couldn't afford what he's paying. I paid $500 a month, luckily, but it was actually $1,800 for a studio with no bedrooms. I've seen buildings in downtown Santa Cruz in apartment complexes that you pay $900 a month to cook right next to where you go to the bathroom. Okay, it's each square foot should not be worth $10. It's not gold. That's
cheap.
Yeah.
I heard someone, again today, a lot of great stories when you're out knocking on doors. Someone paying $900 to rent a room in a house, and the rest of the rooms in the house were Airbnbs. So constant shifting of roommates, no roommates with a necessarily connection to the house or a long-term community in the house or around the house, and you're still paying $900 for one spot.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, just want to let folks know this is a live show. You can call in and talk to us if you like by looking at the number right here below me by my smiling face. Yes, 425-8848, extension 630. If you've got a question for Julia, Cynthia, or Zav, call us up, let us know. I'm curious, what are you paying right now, if you would care to share for your particular living situation? I've definitely heard some nightmare stories myself. I mean, I think one of the recent ads I saw was something about $500 to basically live in a kitchen hallway, pass-through space on a cot. It was located in downtown in a 100-year-old house, something like that, and it was kind of insane to think that that's where we're at, that people will pay that much for a cot. Or I've heard of folks, living in a walk-in closet. I mean, and paying extreme premium to do so. Let's see if we can get our caller here. You could be the next one, but let's take this caller right now. Hey, caller, are you there?
I sure am.
Right on. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, and thanks for having this great panel. I was really happy to hear that Mountain View had passed an active some rent control. And I know that San Jose has had a rent control ordinance for some time, which seems to work very well for them. But it does only cover a certain percentage of homes. They only, one unit's constructed before a certain period of time. But has the panel looked at San Jose as maybe something they could suggest to our local city councils they might be able to look at as a model? And I'll take my answer off there. And again, thanks for the great panel.
Sounds like a good question. Thank you.
Well, I just want to say one thing we haven't mentioned yet, and that is none of us are lawyers, okay?
Sure.
We have to do a disclaimer, and we don't, pretend to give legal advice. So just a disclaimer there. Actually, I'm not that familiar with the San Jose law, but That is a great question, and we do want tenants to become more involved with that. We are not going to go and do things on behalf of tenants. If that is a tenant and they are interested in talking to the city council about what San Jose is doing, what they need to do, I'm suggesting, is get together with us and get more people together. Because one person going to the city council or the board of supervisors means nothing, unfortunately. And so that's really important. But I do want to say we are going to have a big meeting soon, and we're going to have a presentation from someone from Richmond, which also passed rent control at the same time Mountain View did, and they're having a little better experience with it at the moment too. So that's going to be an exciting presentation at our upcoming meeting.
And that meeting's going to be on January 22nd on 517 Mission Street. To answer at 1:30, to answer the question directly, we have done some research into different rent control laws, not San Jose specifically, but many of them tend to have pretty similar. Many of them tend to have pretty similar sort of building blocks, I guess. One thing that we know that a rent control law here, if it happened, would need to have would be just cause eviction protection, like Julia mentioned. And again, to reiterate, those basically mean that there has to be a good reason to evict. They also have restrictions on how fast rent can increase. Again, like Julia mentioned, sometimes it's tied to the CPI of the region. There are other methods as well, but we would like to look around at cities of similar characteristics to Santa Cruz, with similar rent prices, similar population size and growth rates, things that will match with and fit the dire needs of the renter population.
Maybe other
here in the city.
UC towns.
Yeah, the UC towns, coastal towns, vacation towns, things like that. And like Cynthia was saying, if people want to do that research and come work with us and get that information out, if you're out there and you have an idea about what ordinance would work right for this city, then we need you to work with us, because we can get the word out and we can get people. We're trying to get people together, but we need help.
And I did make a list of all the ordinances that were tenant friendly in the Bay Area that I could find about a year ago. So yes, I think about these things, but I'm not doing anything alone. Nobody is. And so we are here together. I'm so excited to be working with Julia and Zav and some other people. And we're looking for people to do the kinds of things we do, because other than that, there's no hope for tenants unless they work together.
Sure.
So.
Where can people find more information about both your organizations? Where can they?
Her website is incredible. Cynthia's website.
I don't know if it's incredible,
I
but
think it looks great. It's very
cute.
I like it.
friendly format, and
Thank you so much.
it is the web address I cannot remember.
Oh yeah, so my website, it will come up if you put in tenants' rights in Santa Cruz, and it's called Santa Cruz Tenants, and because I do it through a free website company called Weebly, it has that in its name. So it's santacruztenants.weebly.com. And my hotline number again is 831-222-0359. If I don't pick it up, I'll call you right back.
Sure. And then looks like maybe santacruztenants@gmail.com as well.
That's my
Sure.
email,
People wanna email you.
santacruztenants@gmail.com. I kind of snagged Santa Cruz Tenants there.
That's a score right there.
Yeah.
But
They're like, hey.
yeah, Zav has a great Facebook page, and Julia has a page too.
My Facebook page is full of memes. They're all really funny and informative. Some of them are.
Right. What is your Facebook page?
It's just Santa Cruz Tenants.
The cover photo
Right.
is a dolphin.
Or no,
labeled-
it's
not
an
dolphin,
otter.
Sorry, an otter labeled Santa Cruz Tenants punching another otter in the face, and that otter is labeled Slumlords. So
That's what we do.
How
Yeah.
violent. Violent otter.
If we were otters, we would punch them in the face. But we're humans, so that's
so
illegal.
We're gonna talk.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk.
Work it out.
And
Work it
then
out.
you have a
Talk it out.
Facebook page
Yeah.
too.
So Santa Cruz Tenants Organizing Committee's page is facebook.com/sctoc. We also have a Gmail account. If you have questions for us and want to get involved, you can hit us up at santacruztoc@gmail.com. And we also have a phone number, which I can't remember off the top of my head.
Oh, how convenient. You'll just have to use my hotline all the time.
Cynthia's hotline is actually the better one to go to for advice, definitely. And the email gets checked more than the phone number. But can I actually borrow that flyer for a second? So the phone number for Santa Cruz Tenant Organizing Committee is 831-471-7842. But please go to the email address if you have access to a computer. If not, phone's great. Still answer the lines. So
I'm going to say that number again. 831-471-7842. That's the we have 2 tenant hotlines in this county. I think that's pretty great.
That is pretty awesome.
And
also, Cynthia is basically fluent in Spanish, so if you know anyone who doesn't speak very good English and has questions for someone about tenants and needs to have a Spanish translation or need to speak to someone who speaks Spanish, Cynthia is very good Spanish and can answer those questions for people.
se habla español.
Qué bueno. I'm just curious, are you all working on kind of a housing supply side? I mean, it's certainly good to improve the conditions that we have, but I think our county's gone through a lot of growth in the past, decade plus, and I don't know if our housing stock has necessarily kept up. So I'm just curious if you're doing any work or can recommend where people can learn a little bit more about that, if that's something that's attractive to them as well.
There's a marvelous group working on this issue, and we work in coalition with them. We keep in touch with them. They're called Affordable Housing Now, and they actually have a web page, Affordable Housing Now, ! And if they have something on their web page, I would go there and look at that. They have a lot more knowledge about housing, zoning, planning, and than we do. And some of them are even former planning commissioners. And so what they do is they lobby elected people, like officials, like city council members. They lobby planning commissions. They lobby county supervisors. They write letters. They attend meetings. I think a lot of them might be retired, I'm not sure, but they are really a great group, and they're keeping an eye out on affordable housing issues. For a tenant, I see it as it's in a long event horizon to talk about affordable housing, and a lot of tenants are going to be out of here, and it's going to be a place all for rich people by the time some affordable housing gets built. A lot of it's already been in the pipeline, and they can't get funded. So there's a lot of problems with affordable housing. We're choosing to work on other kind of more urgent
More
things
immediate.
for tenants.
Yeah.
And we think rent control is really the only thing that can really save tenants in the long run in the entire United States, because this problem it's on both coasts and anywhere where there's, nice weather or a good economy. So there's just a housing shortage all over the whole United States, actually. And because, a lot of people lost their houses and are now renters, too.
Yeah.
What do you want to say about that? Data points?
Anything you want to add?
Well, one data point that I did want to bring up that I think is very important. One thing that I do want to talk about is homelessness in Santa Cruz and how our housing situation creates homelessness. It seems that downtown Santa Cruz, sometimes it's a battle between law enforcement and houseless people, or I've heard a lot of really rude things. Also, there's a Facebook page called Take Back Santa Cruz, and they talk a lot about houseless people in ways that are not really conducive to trying to help them, to say the least. I just want everyone to know that 84% of houseless folks that are living in the county right now were living in the county when they became houseless.
gosh.
84%. We have the 10th highest population of houseless folks for small cities in California, and that came straight from the annual homeless assessment report to Congress.
So we're kind of a factory for making homeless people here. The way our county and cities are run here. We're basically a homeless people factory.
We've got a lot of peers that are super housing insecure, where they live in a precarious situation, or they're between situations and they have to crash on their friend's couch or in their car or
on the street.
Common spaces in dorms or on the street. I mean, like, depending on how much complication there is with their situation, or whether there's drugs or alcohol or like mental health issues involved. I mean, there's certainly not a social safety net to deal with people coming in and out of those. I mean, there is some kind of emergency housing situation, but it's woefully inadequate for the demand that is present.
Also, anyone can become houseless. It really doesn't matter. Anyone can, and a lot of people do in Santa Cruz.
If you're on a month-to-month renting situation and your landlord gives you a 30-day notice to quit because you've lived in your house for less than a year, and 30 days is all that's required to give you, unless you're living in under some kind of a HUD managed property situation, but that's a different story, and you can't find somewhere else in the city, then you are out of luck. You are on the street.
30 days.
Yeah.
There are a lot of working homeless people here who stay in their cars too. Yeah. Maybe some of them are lucky enough to have a friend where they can stay inside or pay a little to live in an illegal situation. But there are lots of them on the street here, and Santa Cruz just kind of accepts that. Even though they are at risk, they're either at risk if they're a woman alone, or they're at risk for getting a ticket.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that really needs to be addressed. Working homeless people living in cars.
Let's see what this caller thinks about the situation. Hey there, caller, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Yeah, who are we talking to?
My name is Brent Adams.
Brent Adams. Hey, how you doing, brother?
Hey, I'm well. Hey, I'm right in the process of looking for housing, and so I've been all over Craigslist. The studio that I used to live in Beach Flats just 5 years ago, paying $650, is now going for $1,400, and it's crazy. What I'm wondering, I'm just joining you here. I've been all over the West Coast, in investigating homelessness, and homelessness is on every point of the map, and I've experienced that. But I'm wondering what the plan is. Having just joined the program, I'm sorry. I'm wondering, is it a ballot initiative or something at the city council level that we're planning here?
We're just tenant advocates and tenant organizers, and we're looking for more tenants so that we can do the kinds of things that you're talking about. We don't purport to represent all tenants and go out and do something as big as a ballot initiative without talking to a great big group of tenants. And that has been hard to do. So that is why we've put our efforts into organizing tenants and getting them together to help us.
But
Okay, that sounds great. I'm really hoping to see what's happened in some of these other cities that have rent control and how they have successfully done it. Well, cool. I'll continue watching. Thank you.
Thanks for
Good
calling.
luck on finding
Good luck.
housing.
Yeah, I was going to say, got any highlights from the search, like certain outrageous things you saw or kind of prices you were looking at? I mean, anything from the Craigslist front?
It's crazy. Like definitely the Beach Flats is, if that's any indication, it's blowing up down there. $1,500 for a really small studio. Definitely, if you're looking on Craigslist, there's so many double rooms being rented for the cost of what we're normally used to paying for a single room, meaning, a room for yourself as opposed to renting it alongside another individual. And I think that's just really the impacted student population. I think they keep adding students without adding enough housing stock. And of course, the success of the market over the hill, things are just really, and then Airbnb, as you mentioned, it's a real difficult market right now for the renter. So I'm just kind of going to buy my time and maybe wait, because I know in June things will open up quite a bit when the students leave.
Yeah.
But and unfortunately, what happened in Oakland with this sort of ghost ship fire, some of the vision is that we could all get together collectively, maybe get a warehouse or something. But that vision is kind of going away.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly true that the kind of affordability crisis creates precarious housing situations, and whether anyone means to create safe or unsafe unsafe conditions, like people could have the best of intentions, but it can certainly lead to all kinds of problems when people don't have secure, inspected, quality housing. I mean, it's just a fact.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I even understand, the old tradition of, the woods dwellers back there in the Pogonip behind the university.
Sure.
I'm starting to even consider that as an option again. So yeah, as we're talking about homelessness, houselessness, it's no mystery why we're seeing a rise all up and down the West Coast of people inhabiting, all of the, the wilderness areas, the highways, this homelessness is really expanding everywhere.
Yeah. Hey, I know you're involved in another awesome project. Would you mind telling us a little bit about the warming center in case folks are facing houselessness?
Yeah, so the warming center, it's the other shelter for cold weather. There's a winter shelter that's funded by the county. We are the extreme weather, so when it gets to be forecast of 35 degrees or lower or extreme rain events, we open up. And so you can call 211 when it gets really cold to find out where we're open. Facebook page, Warming Center Program, if you want to find out more. Thanks, Sandino.
Yeah, of course, man. Thank you for
you.
doing the great work you're doing and making really essentially a safety net that we said really wasn't there. Your work goes a long way to help a lot of people, probably saves lives. I mean,
Definitely.
the exposure that they're facing that you help prevent. I mean, really, man, hats off to you.
Yeah,
And all the crew of volunteers. It's not just you, it's all those wonderful people.
All volunteers, that's right.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah, thanks, everybody.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thanks, Brent. Good luck with your search.
Cheers. Yeah, so true. I mean, I was just crunching some numbers right here and was just thinking the minimum wage just went up to $10.50, right?
That's ridiculous.
That's ridiculous
Are you
in and of
kidding?
itself.
$10.50? They say
$10.50.
$15 by the time everybody's
it's supposed
already
to be,
dead.
It's going to get there eventually,
Yeah,
but we're
that's
doing it in
ridiculous.
stages. So, I mean, $10.50 times 40 hours a week, 4 weeks a month, that only works out to $1,680 before taxes. I was just perusing some Craigslist ads. I mean, if you heard Brent say, a studio for $1,500, there's 100% of your income going right to housing. And I don't remember what particular government agency said it, that 30% of your income should be going to housing, and that's considered affordable. Anything above 30% is considered unaffordable and sustainable,
Rent burden
precarious.
is the
Yeah,
term.
your rent
You
burden.
You can't save any money. That's the issue.
You can't eat. You can't save money. You can't
If you're
take
paying
care of your
over
healthcare needs. I
30%,
mean,
yeah.
Yeah, the only way that I get through it is, fortunately, I work at the farmer's market, and at the end of the day, whatever I don't sell, I'm able to trade. But I don't actually qualify for food stamps, and so with groceries, I save $200 at least. I bring home a lot of money in groceries every week, and I feed my housemates, and I feed my neighbors, and I feed Zav with all the stuff that I bring home.
It's true.
We're all able. My friends and I, we all work together to be able to afford Santa Cruz. But luckily, it's all healthy farmers market stuff. But when I run out of food, I definitely don't eat healthy.
Sure.
I eat what I can get.
Yeah.
No, there's tricks to the trade. Yeah, absolutely. But it's not a fun one.
It would be great if people didn't have to rely on, say, for example, didn't have to rely on using food stamps, or didn't have to rely on, getting WIC food or getting stuff from Second Harvest. It would be fabulous. But the problem is that the wages are so low in this county and the rents are so high that the only way that people can survive is working considerably more than a 40-hour work week,
Right.
more than one job, relying on freebies when they can find them, and if they can find them, and if they're available, and cramming people into their apartments. One person who I know that Cynthia and I helped out has to rent one of the rooms in their apartment, and their whole family is already living in the apartment. 2 parents, brother, spouse, 2 kids. And they're also renting one of the rooms in their apartment out to someone who has a child themselves. So their whole family is crowded into either one or two of the rooms. Sometimes one person has to sleep in the living room.
All of the adults in that family work, including one of them who is on daily dialysis. He works too. So they work, and they still have to take in a tenant, you know.
According to, we were talking about the survey that the UC did, No Place Like Home, the McKay
That
Greenberg.
Steve McKay and Miriam Greenberg did, yeah.
So they interviewed 435 residents in Lower Pacific. 32% of them experienced overcrowding. Overcrowding is considered 2 or more people per room, and that includes kitchen, dining room, you know, all that stuff. Like,
Sure. Non-bedroom spaces.
yeah,
Yeah.
2 people per room. It's, I mean, not to mention, you know, 50% of the people they interviewed paid over 50% or more of their income towards rent. I don't know if I already said that, but
And it seems like we're painting a really dire picture, and I think the reason we're doing that is because it is,
Not
Yes.
bad.
you know.
Yeah.
But again, that's why we're here. That's why we're doing what we're doing. That's why we're on the show, because we know people are dealing with these situations, and it's not going to change unless renters get organized, make political waves, and get stuff to happen, you know?
I asked 5 friends if they would be on the show tonight. All of them work 2 jobs. I finally am working 1 job. I was working 3 jobs while going to school full time for a while to pay $100 in rent. 45 hours a week. They're all part times, but you know,
Sure.
you don't get overtime. I'd work a 12-hour shift then from like 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. and then go to work at 7 to midnight on the weekends. And I finally, my rent is less, so, and I get free food, so I'm able to do it. But it's, I mean, of all my 5 friends, none of them could come to the show because they were working. People can't organize because they are working so hard constantly. That's a huge battle that we face. I mean, people can't go to the events because they're working. We are forced to work so many hours. I mean, for example, so the National Low Income Housing Coalition does a survey every year where they basically check out, it's mostly about minimum wage and increasing it. Santa Cruz, they found that renters in Santa Cruz make around $13.05, well, actually, $13.05 an hour. That is the median renter wage in Santa Cruz. Fair market price is around $900. I didn't write it down, but I do remember the stat that to not be burdened by rent, basically 30% of your income going towards it, someone would have to work 58 hours a week. When we're doing that, we can't organize.
Sure.
That's the biggest problem I've faced, at least when organizing people, is they work too much. They're tired when they come home. They want to sleep.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of transient population as well. I mean, like Brent was mentioning the whole, student shuffle, and might have to wait till June to find housing, because that's when a lot of people either change situations, go home for the summer, or do whatever they do. And it's true. I've definitely given people the advice, like, hey, maybe you should just figure something out for the next month or two until you can get to that like time point. And January is actually kind of one of those shuffle times as well, just because it's the new year. People are maybe not coming back to a secure housing situation, or it's just in flux for whatever reason. I mean, it's kind of like a good time to be looking, but it's true. I mean, you try looking in August, September, October, there's nothing there when students are coming back. I mean, it's tough. And I know that the university has had agreements with the city to house a certain amount of students. I know they've historically violated that. They've gotten better in recent times, but I mean, with the university population being so transient, that's a really hard group to organize. And on top of that, I've mentioned and identified before, I think as another contributing factor is just Silicon Valley and the wealth that's over the hill and the jobs that are over there, but people who might not necessarily want to live in that area, in that community, and end up over here and doing the commute. And then those long commute times mean they don't necessarily have time to organize, just like you're saying. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's kind of a really tough situation, I think, and I just want to applaud you for your work and kind of what you're up to. I'm curious if you could tell us a little bit more about this event on January 22nd. I just want to hear a bit more about what you all are planning, what you're thinking, kind of what you hope to get out of the thing, what people can expect there.
I can talk about it a bit.
We're having a grand opening sort of event for tenants. It's going to be a big shebang just for tenants.
Yeah, so we're having a community meal and meeting. I'm cooking, Cynthia's cooking.
Wait, did I hear free food?
There you hear
Free
free food.
food.
Love free food. So if you're a renter, you're struggling with that rent
There you
cost,
go.
come on out, you can get a free meal.
I brought
And
two
we're having
pies.
live music from
Julie's
very
bringing
nice
pie.
guitar playing in the background for us.
Free food, free music. I like what I'm hearing.
Conversation, come out. We really want to get renters to come together, talk to each other, and sort of figure out what people are facing at the same time. You have a ridiculously high rent. I have a ridiculously high rent. Let's do something about it. You have mold in your apartment. I have mold in my apartment. What did you do to fix it? I did this. You did that? Oh, great. Well, maybe I can do that. We want to get people to come together to share information. We want people to come together to help each other out in that way. We want to have a good time. We hope people meet some new friends. And then one thing we're also going to be doing is we're going to have some presentations. So if you're interested in any of these things, we're going to have a presentation from someone who lives in a housing and urban development managed property about successes that HUD tenants have had getting organized in the past. And this person is also going to talk about some of the protections that people specifically living in HUD properties do enjoy, but still need to come together to make sure that they get those rights, because I know myself of some friends of mine who are living in a HUD property who, because they were trying to make sure that their rights were
Honored.
they eventually were evicted. Sure. And the landlord does a great job of painting my friends as unruly and problem tenants, but really these were people who wanted to live in a safe environment that was suitable for human habitation, and when they continuously asked for it, they were evicted.
Sure.
We're going to have another presentation. I'm trying not to keep it to the bring it all down kind of stories, but they're there. We're going to have another presentation from, like Cynthia mentioned, someone from Richmond who is going to talk about what Richmond tenants did to come together to win rent control in their city. Unfortunately, the California Apartment Association is suing the city of Richmond to try to stop their rent control ordinance from going through, but we're confident, as is Richmond, that the will of the people who voted is going to continue to happen, so that Richmond renters aren't going to face eviction because of incredibly high prices. We're also going to have a presentation from some folks across the pond from the UK, a bunch of students from London who went up against their university, were living in horrendous conditions and paying outrageous amounts of rent, and talk about some of the organizing they did to make it so that they didn't have to deal with the kinds of conditions that they were living in. We're going to have a conversation. We'd like renters after these presentations to come together and talk about, what do you want to see happen? What do you need?
Sure.
What do you need so you can still live in this county with your friends, with your family if you've got one, in the home that you have that is your place to live,
Sure. Solidarity forever, no one's got to do everything, but if everyone did something, we could get this whole mess fixed.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Well,
Gotta work together.
We're almost out of time here, so I just want to give you a chance to say any last words, any last messages, like literally 20, 30 seconds each, and let's say goodnight.
Okay, I want to plug our meeting. We really want all tenants. We want to let you know these are tenant-only meetings. No landlords or property managers are going to be present, and these are private meetings for that very reason, because then we can assure you that, because sometimes tenants have been had been intimidated. So we do have all tenant meetings. This great grand opening is going to be Sunday, January 22nd, a week from tonight. It's at the SEIU Union Hall, which is on Mission Street at the corner of Locust, and that's 517 Mission Street. It starts at 1:30 and it goes to 4 o'clock. And it's going to be free food and it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. I hope everyone can come. If you have any questions, do feel free to call us at the tenant hotline, and it's 222-0359.
Cynthia Berger from the Santa Cruz Tenants Association, thank you so much.
Thanks for inviting me.
Julia, Zav, like to say any last words?
I do. Real quick, just a little piece of law. Chapter 8.43 of Santa Cruz Code actually protects against landlord retaliation. So if you're afraid to come to the meeting because of your landlord retaliating, please come. You are protected. They cannot evict you 180 days after you organize, or there's other things in the law, like if you were going to do stuff. But anyway, organizing is protected under the law.
Find out more at the meeting January 22nd. Zav?
I'll just be quick. I want to make a point to everyone who's watching and say these groups, we're not anti-landlord, and I want to make that really clear.
Sure.
But we recognize that the situation that we and other tenants find ourselves in right now is an extremely difficult one, where housing is scarce, and there's a lot of money to be made, and there's a lot of opportunity for people to be abused. And so because of that, we're organizing to make sure that people aren't taken advantage of.
Right on. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Santa Cruz Voices from the Village, Community Television's longest running public affairs talk program. My name is Sandino Gomez. I've been here with Julia, Cynthia, and Zav. I hope you learned something. I certainly did. Check out the meeting next week at the SEIU Hall starting at 1:30 p.m. On behalf of workers everywhere, solidarity forever.
Solidarity.